Tamron 16 to 30 f2.8 and the Sony 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master Mark II. This costs more than double, $1,500 more than this lens costs at like $930. So how does this compare to the best one in the market? Now I feel like the biggest test that people are going to want to see is a sharpness test. So obviously I have both lenses here. We're just going to take a few pictures this way, looking at some trees and some grass, and really compare the images side by side in post to see what we're actually getting in terms of sharpness. So these were the photos that I took, and looking back at them now, they weren't the best for comparing and pixel peeping. So I did some actual ones in the studio here for you to take a look at. Interestingly, the 16 Tamron, or the Tamron at 16 there and the Sony at 16 there, are slightly different. The Tamron runs a little wider. We do see that occasionally from time to time. If we go right into the middle, look there, let's actually go in a little bit further, and then we go across to the Sony. So this is the Tamron. We're at 16mm, ISO 100, f2.8, same settings you can see there. Tamron, Sony. Look at the difference in sharpness right in the middle there. So the lines are definitely clearer with a lot more contrast pop on the Sony. For this, we are right here on the edge. That's the Sony, that's the Tamron. See the fringing of color there? Kind of obvious. So something to be aware of as well. So now we are at 30mm on the Sony, 30mm on the Tamron. Even more of an obvious difference there in focal length, but I digress. Right in the middle, this is the Tamron, and that's the Sony. Big difference in sharpness, even more so than before now at 30 versus 16. And then let's go to what we got here, 16mm f4.5, just to see if there's any difference. So 4.5 on the Tamron, right in the middle. Definitely closer when you stop down. So f4.5, f4.5, definitely closer. But needless to say, if you want a lens that is sharper, you need the sharpest lens for whatever reason, you probably want to go with the Sony. So on the Tamron just here, this is actually has a better minimum focus at 19 centimeters versus the Sony's 22.1 centimeters. We're going to try and get as close as we can and take some photos to demonstrate sharpness at the minimum focus. The wind moving the plants was a bit much to show the examples there, but what I said still remains true. The Tamron is definitely better in terms of minimum focus at 16, but what I learned coming back to the studio doing some more tests, when you zoom into 30 and 35 respectively, the Sony has much better minimum focus performance, which I can demo to you right here. Okay, so minimum focus here, this is at 16mm, this is on the Sony. That's about as close as you can get. Excuse how dirty my keyboard is, but it's also a really good example here. And if we zoom in to 35, that is about as close as you can get. This is handheld with the FX3. Stabilization is turned on. Let's swap to the Tamron. So now we're on the Tamron, as close as we can get. About there. Seems to be it. That's at 16 with the active stabilization on. And if we zoom in, we're at 30 now. Minimum focus when you're zoomed in appears to be less. It's having a harder go there. Let's swap it to manual actually, just so we can see here. Yeah, minimum focus when you're zoomed in at 30 is definitely less. Back to continuous autofocus. That appears to be it. So if you need to zoom in and have good minimum focus, Sony is your better option, unfortunately. The thing I like with Tamron is that everything is a lot more budget friendly and a lot more price conscious and attainable. So it doesn't matter if you've just got into this world and you don't have a huge amount of money. If you still want a 16-35, but you don't want to pay, you can get a 16 to 30. So you're losing 5mm of reach. You're losing some features, which we'll talk about in a bit, maybe a little bit of optical quality, but you're getting 80%, just ballpark figure, of the G Master lens. Starting to get hot, so you're going to start to see me sweat. One thing to note with third-party lenses, and when I say third-party, any lens that basically isn't a Sony lens, so that could be Tamron, that could be Sigma, Viltrox. When it comes to the stabilization, you're always going to get better performance out of the actual Sony lens. What I mean by better performance is when you're using the active stabilization. It's going to be better with Sony lenses. than Tamron, other third-party lenses. I've done a whole video talking about this before, which you can watch up there. I don't need to show it to you. It's not a huge difference, but if you're looking for the best stabilization performance, you need to stick with Sony glass. So we're shooting with the Tamron now. I have shamelessly cranked the shutter speed just to show you an example right here. So a problem sometimes you'll find with super wide lenses, and 16 is considered super wide, is if you put an ND filter on the front, will you see rings or vignetting around the outside of the edges just here? Will you see that? So we're going to slap this on here. We're going to put one of these on the front here with the step-up ring adapter and see if we can see any vignetting in the edges. So I'm going to screw this on. 67mm filter thread on this versus the Sony's, which is 82. ND filter right on the front, just there, and then bring down this shutter speed. Now, from what I can tell here, it kind of looks like down here it's a bit darker, but is this not in the right spot? Let's brighten this up a bit, like that. Can I see any here? Doesn't look like there's any, just looking on my iPad here, but it does seem darker down in this corner. Now obviously at 30 there you won't have any issues, but it's here at 16 that I'm wondering, just looking at the back of the screen now, if I can see anything. It looks like there's a little just here, but I don't know if it's hard to tell. I do own Tamron glass and I do own Sony glass. One thing I've noticed over the years using them for a lot of real estate and for weddings is if you use them simultaneously, like A camera and B camera, the colors are a little different. One is slightly warmer than the other, and I'm interested to see if that's still the case with these. We're in Resolve right here, and you can see that there is a color difference between the two. The Sony either yields more of a cooler image, or the Tamron is more of a warmer image, whichever way you want to look at it. I would probably say the Sony is more on the neutral side of things, and the Tamron is therefore warmer. And I find that, generally speaking, with all other times I've used Sony and Tamron glass together. It's less obvious here, maybe a little bit more in the sky. You can see kind of a shift in color just there, but on this wider image here, look at the grass, and look down here, you'll see the difference in color between the two. If we add a LUT, it's even more obvious between the two there. So there's your Sony, there's your Tamron, and all of these LUTs are actually from today's sponsor, which is Motion Array. You can see just here, I've got a big pack of LUTs. Those are all my favorite ones I like to use. Thank you, Motion Array, for being a long-term channel sponsor. You can get all of these LUTs. If you want to try any of these out, you can kind of hover above and see what they look like here in Resolve when you add them. But if you like any of the looks of these, you can search these simply in Motion Array just here. And the nice thing with these LUTs is because they are universal, it doesn't matter if you want to import them to your phone, use them on your monitor to monitor your image, or put them in Premiere Pro, Final Cut, Resolve. Because they're just standard LUT files, they'll work wherever you want to use them. On the Motion Array website, you can just hover above to get a preview of what they will look like. Click on it, you can play a video, and it will give you more of a preview there. It will show you within that pack how many LUTs you actually get. So in this case, it's 15. They are LUTs designed to work on a Rec 709 image. So once you've converted your log file to Rec 709, you then apply the LUT. And as it says, it's compatible with all software. Simply download them and they're ready to use. And as it says right there, if you use Premiere Pro, you don't even need to go to the Motion Array website. You can install the plugin and browse all these directly from Premiere Pro. So all of these are included, as well as all the other things that you get on Motion Array. Motion graphics footage, stock footage that is, and the AI voiceover if you wanted to play about with that. That's included in your membership as well. If you want to try Motion Array, there'll be a link down below that will get you a special discount promo as well. Thanks Motion Array for sponsoring the video. Now, range-wise, I don't think there's going to be anyone that says they need that difference from 30 to 35, but if you do, then obviously that's going to be a big deal breaker for you. But Tamron just makes lenses that are much more attainable in terms of price, much more budget-friendly, price-conscious, and when they do that, typically there are little sacrifices that you have to deal with for the price difference, for the savings. For example, when they made the 17 to 28, typically it was a 16 to 35. People, like 16 to 17 is much more of a difference than 30 to 35 in my opinion. Like you need more width when you're at the wider end of things. So that's why I think the 16 to 30 is probably gonna do way better for them than the 17 to 28 did. Okay, autofocus. Now, I'm not gonna test the Sony because I don't think, we're just gonna record my screen here. I don't think we need to test the Sony. We know it's Sony. It's rare these days that a Sony lens comes out that has poor autofocus performance. It's rare that any lens comes out these days that is autofocus that has poor autofocus performance. It just doesn't hit the market, generally speaking. And I can see now, and I'm going to put my screen recording on here if I haven't already done it. You can see the box is tracking me no problem. We're just going to turn on my ignition here just to see what happens if I bring up this. Can it still track me through the window? No, wouldn't expect it to, but let's see how quickly it clips back onto me. Almost instantaneous there. So we've got another shot now. We're at 16. Recording my screen here, and let's see how the autofocus does with me going a bit further back. It's lost me. Let's pick me up again. Let's go to the edge of the frame here. No problem. Turn my back. We're not using one of the cameras that has the AI stuff in it, so it wouldn't be able to do that. It's lost me again. But remember, we're quite far away. We're at 16. Let's go into 30 and see what we get with 30. Should get better performance now. Yep, there we go. Oh, it's lost me again. Let's pick me back up. Ooh, there's a bit of a drop there. I would argue that autofocus tests are one of those things that we can really just start to move away from. We just don't need them anymore. So with Sony's G Master line, which is signified by the orange G just there, you get everything on these lenses, everything you could possibly want. You've got 1, 2 custom buttons there, autofocus, manual focus switch. You got an iris ring, aperture ring on the back there, which can be clicked or declicked. I personally like declicked there, especially if you're using it for video. Focus ring on the front there, and there is your zoom, which is kind of firm. It's nice. When the lens is at 35, it's actually inside the body. It's the opposite of what you'd think. When it's at 16, it's extended. So compressed, extended. Leather sealing on the back there via a little rubber gasket. 82mm filter thread on the front. It's everything you get with the G Master. With the Tamron, you get a lot less. So you've got a 67mm filter thread on the front there. Similar in terms of how it works, apart from it doesn't actually extend, which is really nice, but you can see it moving forward and back inside there. So I wonder if there'll be issues with dust getting in here. I don't know how weather sealed this is. There is a little rubber gasket on the back there, but the front, I don't know, I feel like this may take dust in depending on how long you have it. We'll see. At 30, it's inside the lens, and then at 16, it pops out there, but not past the front of the lens. It's still inside the lens there. So there's going to be more of a weight change if you're balancing this on the gimbal, but any modern gimbal should really make up for that. 1 custom button is all you get on there. No aperture switch, no aperture ring on the back there, declickable aperture, no autofocus, manual focus switch. But you do have a USB-C port on there, which you can connect to the Tamron Lens utility app and customize what this button does. The focus ring on this is way looser than the Sony. It might not be for some people. And the zoom on here is very loose. I do kind of like it because it's a smaller focus throw and you can kind of flick it with one finger really easily. So just be aware of that. Now, because you don't have all those other features, what it means is you're going to have to control everything in camera. So if you want to change your aperture, go from autofocus to manual focus, you do all that in the camera, which is completely fine. Just some people prefer to have the tactile controls on the lens and some like to do it in the camera. This way you don't have an option. You just have to do it in camera. Now, size-wise, the Tamron is a lot smaller than the Sony, both in terms of length, but also like width, girth, if you want to call it that. Quite a big difference. So that might be something that actually is a big win for the Tamron. Yes, you don't have all the bells and the whistles and the features and the 5mm of difference, but if you purely need to buy a lens based off of size, the Tamron is quite a bit smaller. It's also worth pointing out that the finish and feel of both of these lenses is very different. With the G Master, you are getting this kind of smooth textured finish there. You get the orange G Master badge, if that's something that you care about. All of these feel really, really nice and soft to the touch. The Tamron does look like it's textured, but it feels more smooth, and it's definitely more on the shiny side. You can see the way that this one kind of holds the light, and then this one reflects the light from the lamp that I have just off camera just here. Now, I'm not saying that this is bad by any means. It's definitely not. It's just, it's a very different finish and feel compared to the G Master. And that's exactly what I'd expect, because this is a much higher price than the Tamron is. Tamron is a more attainable, budget-friendly lens for most people, but it's something to be aware of. You're not getting the same as this out of the Tamron. If you're one of those people that can't read the specs on the website and needs someone in a YouTube video to explain it to you, I can talk about that as well. In terms of aperture blades and elements inside the Tamron, you got 16 elements in 12 groups, and in the Sony it's 15 elements in 12 groups. 9 aperture blades in the Tamron and 11 aperture blades in the Sony, which means technically speaking the Sony should have better bokeh in the background because there's more aperture blades. The balls should be nicer. We'll maybe do a little test on that. This is 16mm with the Tamron at f2.8. Let's go to 30 so you can see the bokeh there. So now we're at 30. Look at the lights. That's what we're looking at, just to see how the bokeh balls look. Let's change to the Sony. Now we're on the Sony at 16mm, and we're going to go to 35 because we can obviously zoom in a little bit more there. 5mm more reach. Still see the bokeh balls. Let's compare them side by side. Hardly a comprehensive bokeh test for you, but if you want to check out some of the lights here to see how things look, we're at f2.8 with the Tamron right now, and I'm going to swap over to the Sony and we can do a side by side. So now we're on the Sony with exactly the same settings. The Sony has more aperture blades, so the little balls here should look slightly more round. It's not the best example, but it's all I have. I don't have any fairy lights in the studio, unfortunately. 67mm filter threads. I just got attacked by a bug, thank you. 67mm filter thread on the Tamron, 82 on the Sony. With Tamron, other than the 35 to 150, they do try and keep all their filters the front on the same on the front at 67mm, which is kind of nice. And the Tamron is 440 grams and the Sony is 547, so like 100 grams difference in weight. It's not a huge amount. So who should be buying this lens? Who is it for? If I had to sum it up, it would be if you're in the market for a 16 to 35, so an ultra wide zoom that gets you a little bit of reach as well. You need that shallow depth of field at f2.8. I think this is the best option that you can go for right now from Tamron. They've modernized the previous version of this lens, which was the 17 to 28. Now you get a little bit more reach and a little bit more width. As I said earlier, that 16 to 17 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you need extra width for real estate, that kind of thing, a little bit extra like that can really, really help. And there's not that much of a price difference between it. $7.99, it's on sale right now, so it's technically $8.99 compared to $9.29. This lens also comes in a Nikon Z-mount variety. That's actually the one I've pulled up here, but it's the same price for E-mount. Tamron done a really good job with this lens. I'm very impressed by what it offers. Yes, it doesn't have all the features and the high-end stuff that the G Master has, but if you need all those functional features, like you need the bells and the whistles on the actual lens itself, you need the best stabilization, then you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to go for the G Master. But if you're just looking for the best entry-level, most attainable, budget-friendly lens, the Tamron is the option you should be going for. Just to quickly show you the other options in this price range, I mean, I say it's like $300-ish more. The next step up here would be the 16 to 25 f2.8 from Sony. It's a tiny little lens, fantastic lens, but you're really now compromised on less focal range, 16 to 25. Benefit with this is it's still a G lens, has fantastic sharpness. It'd probably be on par with this lens, maybe a little bit better. This lens isn't quite as sharp as the G Master, it's very close though. And then with this, you get all the bells and whistles on the lens itself, like the G Master, like autofocus, manual focus switch, declickable aperture, aperture ring, that kind of thing. Then you also have the 16 to 35 f4G, which is a power zoom lens. I actually just bought this lens myself because I love it with the FX3, because you can zoom in slowly with the zoom rocker on the top there. But this is $12.98, and then that's an f4. So if you need that low light, you're not getting it with this. And then obviously the one that we compared to in this entire video, big increase in cost. There's an option out there for everybody, but the Tamron is a fantastic lens if you're looking for something in that price. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.